Right. Well, good morning to everybody that's tuning in to listen to us today. I'm really so delighted to have a very special guest with us, Mr. John Hughes, founder of John Hughes Motors here in WA. John, thank you so much for making time for us. It really is a treat, and I know you bring considerable value to our listeners, and they'll learn a great deal from you today.
Well,
I just want to
very pleased to be invited, Doug.
Thank you, John. It's lovely to have you. For our viewers, I just want to give a bit of a backstory. And I've known John now for about 10 years. I arrived in the country in 2008 at the time of the GFC and decided not to waste a good GFC at about the age of 44, went back to study an MBA. And on the back end of that, decided to do a thesis on family-owned businesses. And I needed to interview leading successful family-owned business entrepreneurs. And I picked up the phone, chatted to John, who really was extremely gracious with his time. Welcome.
Could I interrupt there, Doug?
Okay.
It's a very important point. I can guarantee you were not asked who was calling. I can guarantee you were not asked what was the nature of your business. And I can guarantee you were not asked, may I have your name, sir? Because I take all of my own calls. That's my policy. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and it's a great point to make because that's perfectly true. I was not given the third degree.
Yep.
As you would expect with a man of John's stature. I was treated with respect from the get-go, and there were no questions asked. It was, when can you make it? John will make time for you. Come in, which
Yes.
to me was an eye-opener straight away, and it started to set a scene for me. Having been in business for probably 30 years at that point in time and encountered many different types of business people, that was like a breath of fresh air. So I got in my car, went down to John Hughes Motors in Vic Park, which is arguably the largest motor dealership I've ever seen in my entire life. And there you sat in your office, which I think you said you've been in for many, many years. I think you've been in on that site for about 60 years.
Just over the causeway in Shepparton Road, Victoria Park. Yes.
That's right.
Said that a few times, Doug.
Yep, that's right. I was very struck by how pleasant and welcoming everybody was that caught my eye as I approached your office. And I could sense that there was a very powerful, deeply ingrained culture that ran through your business straight away.
Yep.
Now, I've come to learn through the years that a business culture is 80% the leader. And if the culture is good, it's due to good leadership.
Yes.
And John, in sitting with you, you didn't hold back in sharing personal details. You know, you went into your young family life, which, as some would be surprised to learn, wasn't easy. You probably had a beautiful upbringing, I guess, but there were challenges. I think you said there were 6 or 7 of you that shared one bedroom as children, and there were some tough times. I can't really elaborate much more than that, but I really want to portray the clear picture and image that you didn't fall with your proverbial in the butter, as many people do. Suffice to say that you are now a regular participant on the Australia's wealthy list. Okay, so we've kind of got to get that out there. You are one of Australia's wealthiest and most successful business people. And I do believe that you probably sit within the top 5% of motor dealerships in the world in terms of turnover, sales, success.
Well, certainly from one location, excuse me interrupting, Doug, certainly from one location, I would agree with that. There are many multi-franchises dealerships around Australia and around the world. They might have 15, 20, 100 sites. But from one location, I genuinely believe,
yes,
can't prove this, genuinely believe it's the biggest, certainly in Australia. It has to be one of the biggest in the world, yes.
It's an incredible achievement. And it started from, I think the point is, you started from very humble beginnings.
Yes.
You make a point of saying that you wanted to go and study to become a lawyer, but you couldn't afford to put yourself into university.
Correct.
Maybe you could share a little bit about that for us, John. Just tell us a bit about those early
Well,
days.
when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I particularly, well, I would have liked to have been a lawyer, but as you say, we couldn't afford it. I came from a family where, I mean, we weren't poor in the sense of poor, but we certainly lived on the edge. My father was a fitter and turner, and I had two other brothers, younger brothers. I could have been a school teacher, except I was 4 days too late. How lucky was that? And wanted to be an accountant, but I couldn't add up properly. So in the end, I got a job in Canberra as a personnel cadet in the Department of External Territories. And I got on a plane, stopped for about 4 or 5 times in those days, as you did, with a DC-3, arrived in Canberra about 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. I didn't know where I was staying. I didn't know where I was working. Sat on the bench and I cried. I was 17 years and 2 months old. And finally, though, I was stuck. I was there, and that was a big lesson for me in my early days. And I did part-time university. I did psychology. I did English, but I hated it. I really hated Canberra, and I was terribly homesick. And then National Service was in, and in January I went to a place called Puckapunyal, just outside of Seymour in Melbourne. And 3 months later, I came out. I went in a boy, and I came out 3 months later a man. I got discipline, which I apply to myself, and I apply to all of my staff. I got discipline from 2 sources. Number one was Christian Brothers College in Fremantle, which was pretty tough in those days, I can tell you. There was the strap and there was the cane, and we got it. And I got discipline from National Service, and I've never forgotten that, Doug. No.
Yes, sounds very much like my childhood, and then my compulsory National Service, which I think they should reintroduce. So it's good.
Yes, absolutely.
John, you then went on to, stepping ahead a little bit, you then went on to purchase a site in Vic Park on auction. And you
Well, look, let me tell you about that, because I think it should be of interest, and it may be of some motivation to some people or some guidance, whatever. I was working for a company. I was running it, but I used to wake up in the mornings around about 3 or 4 o'clock with a knot in my gut. I had all the tests. There was nothing wrong physically, but the knot in my gut persisted. And then one day I saw advertised for auction a service station site at 196 Albany Highway, just over the causeway. I didn't go to the auction because I'd recently gotten married. I had to borrow the deposit on the house. I had no money. So I rang them up, and rather hoping perversely that they'd tell me it had sold, just to get the monkey off my back, so to speak, it hadn't sold. So I didn't sleep too well that night. And I made them an offer the next day, an offer that they couldn't possibly really accept. I think it was 10% deposit in 60 days, another 10% to make it 20% in another 60 days, and full settlement 3 months after that. They couldn't really accept it. So I slept well that night. Well, the problem was they rang me the next morning and said, "It's yours, you bought it." So I'd walk up and down St George's Terrace with my briefcase, borrowing 120% of what I needed. And you could do that in those days. But Doug, the interesting thing was, as soon as I made that decision, as soon as I absolutely overwhelmed myself financially, biggest decision financially I'd ever make in my life, that knot in my gut went away. And that was my body telling me, "John, you're not destined to work for other people."
So that was a sort of a landmark turning point.
So I started with the 1 yard. The builder was slow in getting the building up. I had to make the first payment. I hadn't sold a car. I managed to get a lease on a yard in Inglewood, and went out there with the salesman, worked, 14, 16 hours a day, whatever it was, for a whole month. Sold 92 cars, just the 2 of us, bought them, sold them, cleaned them, did everything. And that gave me the cash flow to get the business going. So was it a baptism of fire? It certainly was, Doug.
So you speak about those early days, yourself and one other, did you say Marty, would find the car, buy the car, wash the car, repair the car, and sell the car.
Yes.
Now, there's an under sort of tone in a lot of what you say, and that is you were determined to be a success.
Absolutely.
Nothing was going to stop you. You had that fire in your belly. But also what comes through, and I see it to this day, is a philosophy of discipline and structure. You told me then, and I think it's probably still the same now, that you're the first on site.
Yep.
And you're the last to leave.
Yes.
You
First to be there and last to leave. Look, I think it's important if you're employing people to let your staff see you, see them coming in the mornings, rather than get there at 8:30 in the morning with a cup of coffee in one hand and a newspaper tucked under the other arm and give a few grunts to a few people on your way in. Your business, you're not turning on the lights. You've got to turn on the lights in your business. You've got to be the one every morning that switches on the lights and brightens the whole place up. And it gets back to management by walking around, not sitting in an office. You know, I had a session with one of my managers yesterday, and I was talking to him about engagement with the other managers, junior to him, and he said, well, I see them regularly. I said, yes, you see them regularly in your office. Why don't you go to their office? When was the last time you walked around and went to pick out a car that had been in stock a little bit too long and you drive it yourself? Take it home. Well, you know, John, why would I do that? Well, you do that because that's what you're supposed to do. It's management by walking around, management by being involved, management not by delegating. You know, nobody, and I mean this, I've got 440 odd staff, nobody picks up more rubbish off the floor, Doug, than I do. I pick up cigarette butts. It's not even so much to keep the place clean, it's to lead by example. If I can do it, I expect them to do it.
Yep, and heaven knows you don't need to. You could hire another 400 people to do it for you. You don't need to. It's the principle.
Yeah, right.
It's the way you do.
It's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's extremely inspiring, John. It really is.
Well, it may be inspiring, Doug, but seriously, it's pretty basic stuff. You know, you are the leader. You are I keep saying this. You are the light switch in the morning. You turn the place on. The whole place evolves around you. And you know, I just love what I do. I think that's very important to love what you do. It's your passion. You know, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. I don't play golf. I don't go fishing. I haven't got a boat. I don't race horses. I haven't got a property at Margaret River. I don't play bowls. I don't race horses, whatever you do. But, you know, I just focus on two things. I focus on family and business. Now, that suits me. Now, whether that's not for everybody, but even if you're not exactly like me, you don't need to be like me. Channel your life. Keep things in watertight compartments. Don't let things roll off into another. Otherwise, it becomes, they merge and it doesn't stand out as much as it should be. 8 o'clock in the morning, if that's what it is, till 6 o'clock at night, whatever the hours are, that's the business and you're totally focused. I don't expect to get or take a personal call from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. But when I get home at 6 at night, I don't expect to take or make a business call from 6 at night till 8 in the morning. I chunk my time.
It's an awesome discipline to have developed. So, John, I want to ask you about how the business has evolved. So we speak about, you know, you with one other, washing the car, cleaning the car, you know, fixing the car, flipping the car on. Now you've got just shy of 500 people that work for you. And if my numbers are correct, I think you sell something like $15,000 cars per annum, if not more.
Yes, we do.
Plus, from one location. And on top of that, in your marquee, if I can call it that, you have got, you know, a collection of awesome brand franchises. So you've locked in Volkswagen and Jeep and Mitsubishi and you name it.
Yes. There's a few I haven't got that I'd like, Doug, but I'm working on it.
Which is, each of those deals to have stitched together must have in themselves been, you know, a little mountain to climb. And
well, let me talk about Hyundai for a minute. In end of 1985, early 86, I think it was, chap knocked on my door. His name was Danny Fisher. He said, "Can I have a moment of your time?" I said, "Yes." He had been to Korea. He was a panel beater, or a motor body builder, never sold a car in his life before. He'd been to Korea on a number of times and through sheer persistence got Hyundai, or Hyundai we used to call them then, to give him the franchise for the whole of Australia. It was an incredible feat that he did it. But they said to him, you had to get a big financial brother to support you. So he went up and down St George's Terrace, and finally, nobody wanted to know him. He finally finished up in Alan Bond's office, and Alan said, get John Hughes involved and I will be involved. I knew Alan very well. He married my cousin Eileen. So that's how it all started, Bond Motor Sales. And we brought Hyundai into Australia. And Fisher and I had to go east to try and appoint dealers. Nobody wanted to know us, Doug. Strange sounding name from a country they didn't really know where it was. South Korea, what's that? Hyundai, what's that? And we had to work very hard to get dealers. And Bondi at that stage was starting to have a downturn in his fortune. So we had great difficulty in getting the letters of credit sent. We'd have cars in Korea on the wharf wanting to come over, and we couldn't finance them. So that was a baptism of fire. But from now on in, look what Hyundai's done. And I'm proud to say, Doug, for 6 consecutive years, seriously, I was the top selling Hyundai dealer in the world.
That's incredible.
Be happy with that.
Yeah, lots and lots of accolades, lots of sort of achievements you can lay claim to, John. Very proudly so. So, John, looking at your business model, I found it to be extremely interesting because you've branched out, but yet you've branched out into areas that are closely aligned with what you do. Car insurance, I think you've got transport services, you've got financing, all of those things. And, the academics would call that an integrative business model.
Bolting on, Doug.
It all bolts together. It all bolts together. Makes sense. So in simple terms, you're providing your client with a one-stop solution.
Yes.
They can come to their most trusted car dealer, as we all know you to be, with this incredible marketing campaign. And when they're there, they get convenience, one point of service, a single relationship, and they can tap into the trust.
Well, we've got a finance company, Sovereign Credit. We've got an insurance company, Sovereign Insurance. We've got mobile service. We've got 8 mobile service vans. We're in the battery business. We're in the tyre business. We add on. I try and avoid as much as possible spending money outside. I try and keep it inside. Now, you can't do that all the time, and sometimes it's more economical to subcontract out. You've got to make that decision. But try wherever possible to keep business inside. Now, I might just digress for a minute. Doug, you said something about a slogan. I want your business, I'm prepared to pay for it. I stand behind every car I sell. Choose your dealer before you choose your car. My reputation is your guarantee. Is it true? Absolutely. All of those. And I use those to the hilt, and they work for me. It rolls off the tongue. And there's a few more I'm going to come up with, but one at a time, Doug.
Yeah, they certainly do work. They do work. So, John, to all of those, and I can assure you, by the close of business today, over 1,000 people would have listened to this interview. And many of them will be people that are starting their businesses for the first time, are a little way in and experiencing difficulty.
Yes.
They're looking at the world right now with the upcoming US elections and the COVID virus, and, all these different challenges, and they're quite concerned. What pearls of wisdom, what can you share with that with people?
Somebody starting the business for the first time. Okay, first of all, don't go in undercapitalized, because you really won't make any money for probably 12 months, any real money. So make sure you've got something behind you in case it doesn't work, and don't put too much at risk. If you're a home buyer, don't put your house at risk, but you might risk everything else. So don't go in undercapitalized. That's the first thing. Second thing is go into something in which you have knowledge. Try and get some previous knowledge, some previous history, some learning, working for somebody else for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years or whatever. So you go in knowing what you're doing. Third thing is get correct accounting advice. Have a budget, have an actual. And every month you sit down, what was I supposed to do? What are my expenses? What's my bottom line? Where should I be? Am I up or down, or am I a plus or a minus? And the third thing is try and get a mentor if you can. Get someone whose shoulder you can lean on, someone whose brains you can use, someone in the business. And there are people out there that do that. Now, I'm not soliciting it because I'm pretty busy, but from time to time, I've mentored a number of people, not for very long, just maybe 2 or 3 times. And they were all people that were just starting off into business for their own with varying success. So don't go in undercapitalized. Know quite a bit about what you're endeavoring to do. Get correct accounting advice. That's my advice.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, John. Absolutely fantastic. And just as we get closer to the wrap up now, how are you viewing the upcoming US elections and the post-election period? I know it's a very uncertain time. Have you got thoughts about how you?
Oh, look, I don't, Doug. I'm not wise or clever enough to be able to predict the outcome of that. I'm fairly tunnel visioned. Look, I used to do a lot of public speaking. I've given probably 500 or 600 talks, I suppose, to entrepreneurs and business people, etc. And I used to say to them, it was incredible. How many of you, I didn't ask for a show of hands, how many of you in the past have faced a problem that was so insurmountable, so difficult, fraught with so much emotional stress or danger to you, that you're worried about it, you might even got sick about it, you couldn't sleep about it, until finally the day comes when that problem gets to the point of your nose. How many of you have found in the past that either the problem has gone away when it finally you get to face it, or it's nowhere near as bad as you thought it was going to be? And it was incredible, Doug, the number of people that would go like that. So I don't worry about anything unnecessarily. I don't try and predict the future too much, because I'm not clever enough to do that. I very much work day to day. You know, I plan ahead, of course I do, but you know, what happens to the American election? What happened to the Australian election? I've still got a business to run. I've still got a family to live with. Nothing changes that, Doug.
There are a few things that jumped out for me there, John, that I just want to pause on. You've said it a few times, the importance of focus, and the importance of measuring what it is you're trying to achieve. I've seen this in my own business life, and I've seen it in those that I've worked with over the years.
Yes.
Is that a lot of people don't have a good ability or strong ability to focus on one thing at a time and get great outcomes.
I'm like the trotting horse who goes round Gloucester Park with blinkers on. I can't shy at shadows. I can't look behind me. All I see is that narrow section of track, and you go for it.
There we go. And that's a gift. That's a gift. And if you know what it is you're going for, that's even more of a gift. I use a saying which says, great leaders achieve results, but truly outstanding leaders achieve the desired results. So, you know, Stephen Covey would say, make sure that you're chopping in the right forest. Yeah. All right. So, John, it's been a treat. It really has. And it's wonderful for you to share with such passion. What's the future look like for John Hughes Motors?
Rosy. Yeah, can't wait for tomorrow to come. No, well, look, I'm very fortunate. I've still got the passion for the business. It's what I enjoy doing. I just love it, and I am the business. And you know, it's not for everybody. It's what you want out of life. But if you really want to challenge yourself and be successful in business, be passionate about it. Don't lose the passion. The world is full of passionless people. Get the passion and focus on it, and motivate your team, and manage by walking around, manage by being involved. Be one of them. Don't sit in an ivory tower and push buttons. You can, but it doesn't work. Certainly doesn't work for me, and I don't think it works for a lot of people, even though they may think that it does.
Yeah, and that was a point I wanted to make a little while ago, and it slipped my mind, is that from the day I met you till this moment, it just comes through so strongly that you're the real deal. You're an authentic leader. You believe what you say, and you say what you believe, and that then permeates through into your culture, and that authentic leadership then gets your team into what I call a state of flow. It just works. You know, if it's a leader who's muddling around, jumping from pillar to post, creating confusion and mayhem, then the people don't know what the heck to do. and the
Keep
system.
it clear, simple, direct.
Yeah. John, you've got a great
You
deal
get
of
up
privilege.
front and you say, hey, follow me. And they all march in step in unison.
Yes, that's right. That's right. John, thank you very much. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. We're very grateful. Just to all of those that have listened in today, if you are looking for business advice, coaching, mentoring, you want to get your numbers right, you want to work through some challenges, etc., please feel free to call me. This is part of what we're here for. Otherwise, I know you've enjoyed listening to John, and I know that there's been a great deal of value. And John, it's always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
You have a lovely day. Thank you, John. Cheers now.